The night caller had been targeting the larger houses of Hampshire for some weeks now. Acting with impunity, he had so far robbed over a dozen homes, netting a haul of jewellery and works of art worth several £1,000,000. To date, no one had the faintest idea who the culprit was, despite him leaving a night caller business card at the scene of each robbery. Last night, it appeared he had made his latest call, this time in the Tinton area. DS Norman hated going to these great big houses out in the country. It wasn't that he had a problem with the people who inhabited them, it was more the case that they seemed to have a problem with him. He couldn't see what their problem was. Okay, so he was a little untidy sometimes, but did that matter? As long as he was good at his job, and Norman thought he was pretty damn good at his job, what did it matter what he looked like? He had an especially bad feeling about this one. This guy was a retired Chief Constable and had been knighted for his services to law and order. Norman was convinced this more or less guaranteed he was going to be given a hard time, and as he turned his car off the road and onto the long driveway and got his first glimpse of the enormous house, he just knew he wasn't going to enjoy this job. Sir Robert Maunder was an inch or two shorter than Norman, and yet when he opened the front door and stood silently looking Norman up and down, there was something about him that made him seem rather grand. But in that initial silence, Norman wondered if perhaps the only thing grand about this man was his own sense of self-importance. Perhaps it was the result of having spent much of his life looking down on people he perceived to be of lesser rank.
"I'm sorry," said Sir Robert at last, "but we don't allow your sort of people here. Now go away or I'll call the police."
Norman sighed heavily and began rummaging in his pocket for his warrant card. He could see this was going to be even worse than he had expected.
DS Norman.
He held up his warrant card and rolled his eyes slightly as Sir Robert scrutinised it for a good few seconds.
"I understand you've reported a crime. I'm here to investigate."
"Good Lord," said Sir Robert, looking at him suspiciously.
"I knew things were getting bad, but is this the best you could do? I'm a knight of the realm, you know."
"I'm sorry," said Norman. "We understood this was a simple break-in and no one got hurt."
"Yes, that's right."
"Well, frankly, sir, you're lucky to get a DS and a forensics team."
"I don't like your attitude, Sergeant,"
said Sir Robert angrily.
"You seem to forget I used to be a Chief Constable. I know how these things work."
Norman didn't like Sir Robert's attitude either, but he didn't say as much. He could imagine Sir Robert in his heyday, looking after his cronies regardless of the crime that had been committed.
"With respect, sir," replied Norman, "I think you'll find things have changed a bit since you were in charge. These days we rarely get to pick and choose our jobs. I just go where I'm sent and try to do my job to the best of my ability. You could put in a request for someone more important to come out if you like, but I wouldn't expect too much if I were you."
For a moment, Norman felt as if he and Sir Robert were engaged in some sort of stare-off, and he waited for the inevitable storm to break, and for him to be sent packing.
"Don't you even have scene of crime officers?"
Sir Robert said suddenly, his voice calmer. Norman was surprised by the sudden change of attitude.
"There's a forensics team on the way," he said. "They should be here in a few minutes. Perhaps you could show me the crime scene while we're waiting."